I'm recording the podcast live today on YouTube. I thought I would try something new. So, hello, welcome to the Joyful Love Podcast, episode 79, where we're going to talk all about vulnerability. But I want to just first of all tell you about my morning. Today's Saturday, and normally we have a lazy Saturday morning, but I woke up this morning and I asked my husband, I asked Chris if he would like to go swimming with me at the gym. And first of all, we are not gym people. I personally do not like driving to the gym and then driving back. I'm the kind of person who, to stay consistent in my working out, it's like 20 minutes. I got to do like make sure like I hit all the muscles in 20 minutes and then I'm done and I'm going to take my shower. So I like to save my time, right? I like to protect the time I have. And going to the gym, it just feels like this 2-hour excursion sometimes. I know that's like, it doesn't always have to be 2 hours. You can go to the gym and be in and out in 30 minutes. But for me, it's like that driving time is just an extra time that I don't like. So I've never been able to be someone who's consistent with even like yoga classes, like group yoga classes. I love yoga. But after becoming a yoga instructor, I just realized, after even, going to teach yoga and all of that, like I very quickly realized I'm a homebody when it comes to working out, and that includes yoga. So, but I don't have a big swimming pool in my house, and I really want to learn how to swim better and to get used to being in the water before this summer, so that I can enjoy the ocean and all of that. So one of the things that I have on my plan is to go swimming twice a week. And so Chris and I went swimming today, and I swam 8 laps and I felt like I was going to die. And now I've been working out. I've been like doing the brisk walking on a regular basis and riding my bike, but my body and my lungs are not used to the type of exercise that swimming is. And my husband asked me when the last time I swam was, and I don't think, I've played in the water with my kids and all of that, but I don't think I have really swam since I was a kid. And even when I was a kid, I was never like on a swim team or anything. It was more playing in the water. So swimming is a very brand new thing for me. And I can do it. I can make it across the pool, but by the time I'm at the other end, I feel like I'm dying. So anyway, I thought I'd just let you into my world a little bit, that like this is a new thing I'm trying. I don't know how long I want to try it, but I am committed to at least, giving it a try for the next few months, twice a week. And we'll see how I do. My goal is like by the summer, I want to feel comfortable in the water. We're going to visit my sister in Hawaii this summer, and I want to feel comfortable to be in the water and to go snorkeling and all of that. So I am planning ahead of time so that my body isn't what holds me back from that. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. And Chris is a much better swimmer than me. It's like he picked it up really quick. He was on a swim team when he was young. So it's like, even though he hasn't swam for a long time, he picked it up pretty quickly. And he was trying to teach me all the different strokes. And I was like, let me just swim. I don't want to learn anything new today. I just want to swim. But anyway, but today, so that's a little bit of what's going on in my world. The other new things are, from, way back in November that 2 of my children moved out. And one of them, Milo, our 21-year-old, decided that Atlanta was not for him for now. And he has moved back temporarily, plans on moving back out in a few months. But it's really, really nice to have him back here after several months of being gone. And I love that kid so much. I'm so glad he's back. And, this week I go through waves for missing my 23-year-old who she's in Minneapolis right now. And this week I'm going through this huge wave of like intense longing to have her back here. And it's, and it's interesting because like up until now, I've just been like, oh, I want her to succeed. I want her to have an incredible life while she's gone. And she's doing it. She's acclimating. She's doing amazing. I'm so insanely proud of her. But this week, I am just missing her. I'm missing the laughter. I'm missing conversations. I'm missing music that she played. And so I'm missing my baby this week. So that's another thing that I'm working through this week, right? Like we never stop having the feelings, do we? Feelings are just part of life. And that's one of them, that longing. I would say the longing for that connection is there this week with my oldest child. So anyway, but today we're going to talk about vulnerability. The other day, about a week ago, Chris and I were in the car and we just had the best conversation about the ability to be vulnerable with each other in a relationship. And it's not always easy. And, we were in the car for 20 minutes and I ended up telling him, why didn't I just hit record on my phone and record this conversation? It would have been so good. But I will definitely be bringing Chris on soon again. I know in the beginning I had him on a couple of times and it was so much fun. I love just my conversations with him, and I love to bring that to you guys sometimes as well. But so we were talking about vulnerability, and so I just decided let me go to make a podcast on vulnerability today in a relationship and what it means, right? So what does vulnerability even mean? To be vulnerable, it has a negative feeling, doesn't it? It could mean like to be vulnerable means like you're exposed, and you could, like, to our animal brain, it means danger, right? Like it could mean that you're in physical danger, actually, like, right? Like I'm vulnerable to attack, or I'm vulnerable to something that is unsafe. Or in the context that I'm talking about today, it could just simply mean that you're allowing yourself, your true self, your inner thoughts, your inner feelings to be seen by someone else, right? So in the context of relationships, vulnerability happens when you actually step forward and do the scary, courageous thing of saying, hey, I want you to see me. I want you to see all of me. I want you to see my true self and my feelings. And then you also allow your partner to share their true self and their feelings with you. So vulnerability is the most important thing to build the trust and intimacy that you want in your life and in your relationship. Being vulnerable opens the door, so to speak. It's like that door is closed. And when you decide to be vulnerable, it's like you're creaking it open so that you can have an authentic, connected, loving relationship, right? So, and without vulnerability, the rub there, the friction that is caused without vulnerability can be enormous, and it can really start to, like, that maybe you need to welcome more vulnerability in your life if you're feeling really lonely, right? If one or both of you is feeling really lonely, even if you have a lot of time together, right? A lot of time together doesn't necessarily mean you're not still feeling lonely. It doesn't mean that you still feel seen, right? So if you're feeling lonely, if your partner doesn't feel lonely, it shows that one or both of you probably don't feel safe to truly let your guard down in front of each other, right? And if you're not letting your guard down, if you're not letting your partner see into who you are, to see into your feelings, you're going to crave that connection. You're going to feel lonely, and you're going to be like, oh, we're disconnected. We're not connected, right? So one of the top two struggles that people tell me about are a lack of communication and a lack of connection. So today we're going to talk specifically about creating that connection through vulnerability. So depending on your relationship, you might, you may have started off in the very beginning of your relationship of being very vulnerable. And then over time, you or your partner just started withdrawing. That's how Chris and I were. In the very beginning, we were pretty vulnerable with each other. We were very, I told him stuff that I had never told anyone, right? So, and that created a pretty quick bond and a pretty quick connection. So some of you might be like that too. Like in the beginning, we were so honest. We were so connected because we communicated so well. We communicated about everything, right? That might be you as well. Or you may have been like a lot of people and began your relationship with a lot of like tiptoeing around, like, I'm not sure if it's safe to be vulnerable. I'm not sure. And you kind of treaded those waters lightly, right? And so maybe you did hide some things from your partner, or maybe they hid some things from you. Maybe you weren't comfortable yet to express your true self, right? And to express everything that you were thinking, because you were also trying to make a good impression, right? I know a lot of times I've heard a lot of women say, well, my partner was, they were all these amazing things in the beginning, but then after we got married, it was like all those things fell off. And a lot of times that's because they did not feel safe in the beginning to be vulnerable. They were like kind of trying to cover up who they really were because they were afraid to let that be seen, right? So either way, whether you started off with a lot of connection and vulnerability or not, we're not going to really look at the past today, right? The past is the past. Today, we're going to look at some of the reasons that we avoid vulnerability, whether it's a new thing for you or it goes back to the beginning. And then we're going to talk about some steps moving forward to really start opening the doors to more truth and deep connection in your relationship. So first of all, let's look at some of the reasons we stop being vulnerable with each other. The number one reason is self-consciousness, right? That feeling like, oh, I'm just not good enough. And it might go back a long time, like I've never been good enough, or it might be a new thing, like I'm like something is new this year and I'm just like, I'm not feeling good enough. I have a lot of shame. Those kind of thoughts are going to keep you hiding, right? Because you feel like you have too much to change in order to open up to your partner again, right? You feel like you have to change all of these things in order to actually be seen by your partner. This can, of course, show up in the bedroom. I can't talk about vulnerability without talking about like how we feel, especially as women in the bedroom, right? We have all these judgments and criticisms, and culture has taught us to believe we have to be perfect, right? And so like all of these, and when our bodies change after kids, right? All of these things, like we feel less than beautiful. And so we want to cover, we want to hide, we want to turn out the lights, we want to, avoid getting dressed in front of our partner, right? If you're a woman, girl, we've all been there, every single one of us. But this is not just about our bodies. Hiding ourselves also includes hiding our thoughts and feelings, right? Hiding those true, our true emotions that we're feeling during the day on an everyday basis. So it can also show up, in simply not being able to share in a connected way, just your everyday life with your partner, right? So let's give a few examples of that everyday life stuff. Let's say you spent more money on something than you planned, right? Or maybe you spent more money on the groceries, or you spent, you decided to go therapy shopping, and you spent a whole lot of money on clothes, and you have a little bit of shame about that, and you're starting to like hide it from your partner. You're like, oh shoot, I'm not going to tell him about that purchase, or I'm going to try to figure out a way not to let him know about that or her know about that. Or if, let's say, like you lost your patience that day and you ended up yelling at your kid, and now you feel so much you feel shame about that. You feel embarrassed at how you handled a situation with your kid. And so now you just decide, you know what, I'm going to hold in my feelings. I'm going to avoid, talking a lot tonight, right? And you might not even have that thought, I'm going to avoid talking a lot tonight, but you might just like your brain just wants to shut down and avoid. And so you start hiding these little bitty things. And before you know it, you're not really talking that much about your days. You're not talking about like the real things that happen in life, right? And it's because of that shame, right? So these little moments of hiding our truth can become a habit. It happens to all of us on occasion, right? But when it becomes a habit of hiding, then you're really going to start to feel disconnected in your relationship. And if that's you right now, it's worth looking at where you could allow, like just asking yourself, where can I allow more openness in our communication? Where can I kind of, create some courage within me to step forward and share some of the things that I'm hiding, right? Holding in things that feel shameful or holding in guilt, it keeps you in the mode of repeating the same struggles over and over and over, right? Think about it. Shame and hiding has never been a way to change any behavior. There's this beautiful TED Talk I watched a couple years ago by a man named Johann Hari, where he talks about addiction. I hope I pronounced his name right. He says that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. So the opposite of addiction, we think of like, oh, the opposite of addiction would be sobriety. He says, no, that is absolutely not the case. The opposite of addiction is actually connection. Connection is what nearly all people who are struggling in life with a negative habit, whether it's like a major addiction or whether it's just like the habit of yelling at your kids when you're impatient, right? Or even just like, another habit of just like every day you're falling more and more out of love with your partner. All of these things have one thing in common, and it's connection. Connection is the common need that we are all craving, that true connection, right? And what is connection? Is it just spending time together? No, it's actually being able to reveal ourselves to someone else and to feel safe about it, right? So whether people who are addicted or going back to negative habits all the time realize it or not, what they really need in all of these situations is connection, right? It's human connection that each of us need in order to feel loved and supported and understood, right? So bringing what's hidden, what we think is shameful, what we want to hide, what we don't want, what we don't want others to see, bringing that out into the light, turning the light on all the things that we feel shameful about, builds that true connection. One of the things I used to binge eat whenever I would have a lot of heavy emotions, right? Whenever I would like I'd have depression, and like one of the ways I would deal with it is I would go to the store and I would get like this box of Oreos, and I would plan to share it with my husband, but I was like, oh, like shoot, like before I got home, I would open the package and eat like half the package. And so I didn't want my husband to know that. I didn't want to like walk in the house and say, hey, here's this package of Oreos and I just ate half or 3/4 of it. Here's a few left for you, right? I didn't want that. So I'd pull over the car and I would put the rest of it in the trash can. So like that kept me in that feeling of shame and that feeling of hiding something that I felt was like, oh, just too awful to actually put it out there in the world to my partner. And, and I just imagine like that went on for years. And like, I imagine like what would have happened if I would have been able to say, hey, babe, here's what I'm doing. And I want to, and I don't like it and I need help, right? Like that would have like been a very courageous thing for me to do in that moment. But it would have probably, my guess is it would have helped me kind of be able to get the help that I needed in that moment, just by simply sharing my truth with my husband, right? And not all of our things are like really heavy things like addiction, or binge eating or something like that. But those little bitty moments during the day that are just like, oh, I'm just like, I felt really bad today, and I felt really low, and I'm really exhausted, right? Sometimes it's just those simple things that you need to share with your partner. So whatever it is about, sharing things with your partner, like I'm sure that you can probably think about something right now that you don't want your partner to know how you're feeling or what you're doing, or even just like your thoughts about something, right? So just imagine like what it would be like to actually be able to be honest, right? Like that's where true connection starts to heal, right? Vulnerability heals. Hiding keeps you stuck. So pay attention to those two emotions, self-consciousness and shame. They are holding you back from that true connection. So, bring awareness to those emotions, right? Sometimes they say that awareness is the first most important step. It absolutely is, right? Being able to even like, you might not even change anything about vulnerability and sharing your real thoughts and feelings with your partner this week, but even just bringing awareness to it and going, oh, I noticed that I'm holding back expressing these my true thoughts and feelings because I'm self-conscious about this area, right? Just naming it, right? Or even saying, I feel shame about this area and I don't want to share that. Just that simple awareness this week is like really great homework for you to implement. And then, even admitting to your partner, hey, there's some things that I feel like a lot of shame around during the day. I feel really self-conscious about this area, and I notice I'm wanting to hide, right? Even that communication, right? Like I notice I'm like turning out the lights a lot more when we're intimate because I feel a lot of embarrassment around my body right now. And you might not even turn the lights on yet, but just like admitting that to your partner, admitting, what's going on and the emotions that you're dealing with is a huge step in creating a culture of vulnerability, is what I call it. So, okay, that's number one. Self-consciousness and shame are reasons we avoid being vulnerable. Another reason we don't feel safe getting vulnerable is because our brain holds on to the past, right? Because of, when you've been vulnerable before, there've probably been past arguments that have come up out of it, or past blow-ups in your relationships. And now your brain is saying, hey, if you're vulnerable, you're going to be criticized, you're going to be judged, you're going to be yelled at, right? So our brains don't like feeling that shame and judgment and criticism. So if it's experienced it in the past as a result of being vulnerable, it's going to tell you to hide. It's going to say, oh, this is a situation where you really need to hide. You need to hide your truth. You need to hide your opinions. You need to hide your emotions. You need to hide your body, right? Your brain, your animal brain doesn't like to be exposed, not to real live tigers and not to criticism. It views criticism just as much of a threat as like a tiger, right? So which is why we have to retrain our mind that allowing ourselves to get vulnerable and to welcome more honesty and openness in our relationships is a sign of strength. It's a sign that you have courage. It's a sign of growth. It's not weakness, right? So our brains think it's weakness to share. We need to retrain it that it is not weakness. It is a sign of strength. It is a sign of personal development and growth, okay? So we just need to retrain our animal brains. It's fine. We need to convince them, and our animal brains are going to keep pulling us back, right? That's just like, that's its job. And so, this is an ongoing practice, right? And I think it's important to see it as a practice so that you don't like get into the mode of thinking, I'm never going to get good at this, or my partner's never going to get good at this, right? It's important to see it as a practice and to have compassion on our animal brains and just say, hey, I see you. I see that you want to hide. It's okay. I understand that. We're going to listen to the higher brain today, and we're going to get honest. We're going to be brave. We're going to test the waters on being brave today and speaking our truth, right? So Brene Brown, I feel like I can't have a episode on vulnerability without at least mentioning Brene Brown, who is the queen of vulnerability research. She says that vulnerability is the path to courage, authenticity, and in creating meaningful relationships, right? Vulnerability is the path to creating meaningful relationships. That's so important to remember. We cannot, like, if you're following me, if you're listening to this podcast, you are here because you want a connected, joyful, and meaningful relationship. You cannot have that without a culture of vulnerability, okay? And this is going to take intention, and it's going to take practice. So we know we need to practice it, but how? Let's talk about some practical strategies for creating a safe and supportive environment so that both partners can be vulnerable with each other. So number one, we're going to practice active listening. When your partner shares something with you, I want you to really practice giving them your full attention. And you know, active listening also shows empathy. It's not just like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. It's actually showing empathy when whatever they're sharing with you requires empathy. It also shows understanding, right? I understand what you're going through, like showing that, practicing that's going to help these things, like really listening, putting your phone down, looking them in the eyes, right? Those are like the basics of active listening, of like just like pausing what you're doing and saying, hey, you've got my full attention. What's going on, right? That's going to help them to start believing that you are safe, that you actually want to hear their thoughts, that you're not annoyed with them, right? Sometimes some of us, we need to retrain our ears to listen and to stop being so annoyed when our partners talk, right? And when they start to notice you actively listening and showing empathy and understanding, they're going to know, they're going to start to build their trust that you are a safe place, right? That you're interested in their inner and outer world, right? So now, let me just be honest here. If you have little kids and you're on the go constantly, it's super easy to tune out your partner, especially if they like to explain things in a lot of detail while you're rushing to get dinner on, or while you're, rushing out the door to go to soccer practice, right? So these are moments when you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to start, saying, okay, like, how can I listen even if I'm in the middle of doing something? Is it possible, right? Or is this a moment where you can, instead of just like ignoring and brushing past your partner, is it a moment when you need to say, I really want to hear what you're saying, but right now the kids are underfoot and we're rushing out the door. So can we pause this conversation until we're in, a little bit better space where I can really listen to you, right? Even just pausing to say that shows your partner that you care enough to want to hear the story that they're telling you, right? So that's number one, active listen, practice active listening. Number two is to create a safe emotional space. A safe emotional space is where your partner feels comfortable sharing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. Active listening is part of that safe emotional space, right? Active listening is part of creating a safe emotional space, but there's more to it than that. Creating a safe space where your partner feels comfortable to share with you and knows, hey, my partner is safe to talk to, means that you have to let go of judgment, right? Letting go of all criticism in your relationship is the quickest path to creating a safe space. So if your partner tells you that he or she is struggling with something at, let's say, work or with family, do you jump in quickly and tell him what you would have done differently, or that he should try this next time? Right? That shows that your critical brain is saying, oh, you did something wrong. Here's how to fix it. That doesn't feel safe to the person sharing you this story, right? Now, sometimes they are going to want your advice, and sometimes they are going to want you to help them navigate some things, and that's okay. But I would say err on the side of listening first, and then if you feel like they want your advice, ask first. Like, do you want to know what I would do in this, or do you want to know, my thoughts on how to navigate this? And then if they say, yeah, I would love that, then that's an opportunity to share, maybe your opinions on how you might do it, or how they might try it differently. But err on the side of simply listening. Sometimes people vent about things just because they need to be heard, they need to be seen, not because they want to be fixed, right? So another situation is like, when if you tell your partner, or if they tell you that they're just exhausted with the kids right now, right? And the other person says, well, you wanted this life with kids, you wanted kids, right? Like that's shutting down what they are trying to express. It's shutting down their exhaustion. It's not validating what they're going through, right? So, when you want to snap back with a quick response, just notice that and say, okay, how do I create a safe space for my partner to get honest with me about how exhausted they are today, right? So those are just a few examples of criticism and being defensive when your partner shares their feelings with you. A lot of times we make what our partner is saying, we make their feelings about us, and then we start projecting like our own, like, oh shoot, did I do something wrong here, or do they think I did something wrong, right? And whether they're actually pointing fingers at you or not, they think this might be my fault, right? So that's when we quickly go on defense and start to switch to criticism pretty quickly, right? So to create a safe space emotionally, watch when you want to make it about you, right? Let them vent and share without thinking that it's about you, because when you think it's about you, right, that pretty quickly leads to criticism both ways, right? So you don't want to go on the defensive here. You want to just pause, listen, create that safe space, let them vent without fixing, without criticism or anything, right? And we've all done it before, right? But to create that culture of vulnerability, we must start asking, how can I simply listen? How can I be there? How can I show compassion? How can I let go of all criticism in this situation? Okay, so let's recap again. Number one, actively listen. Number two, create a safe space by dropping criticism. Number three, I want you to practice being open and honest yourself. So share your own thoughts and feelings with your partner, even if it's uncomfortable. Because when you're honest and you share the deeper things that are on your mind, it really starts to set the example that you are practicing being vulnerable, and your partner is going to start to see this. Your partner is going to start to, notice that you're sharing more, right? Which just you showing the example that it's safe to share feelings, it's safe to be vulnerable, it's safe to be real and honest and authentic, that is naturally going to help your partner to feel more safe sharing their thoughts, right? We affect each other. We don't cause each other's emotions, right? Our thoughts about a situation causes that, but we absolutely influence and affect each other. So I want you to, like, I talk about this all the time, be the partner that you want, right? If you want a partner who is vulnerable and open and honest, where can you start to tap in to be that partner yourself? And then I also like the other thing to practice is number 4, which is practicing gratitude specifically for those acts of vulnerability. And what I mean by that is, like, when you notice your partner showing vulnerability, when you notice them, being extra truthful with their emotions, I want you to start thanking them, like actually saying, I'm so glad you shared that with me. Thank you so much for trusting me with that. I know that might have been hard to share. Thank you for being honest, right? Let them know that you appreciate the strength and the courage that it took to be honest, right? Especially, I mean, there's a lot of people in this world, we have been taught to hide and stuff our emotions. We've been taught that it's weak to show our emotions, right? Especially a lot of men have been taught this, right? Boys don't cry, right? Like, it's, they've taught that it's weak to show their emotions. So, like, actually, like, expressing words of gratitude at the strength that it takes to be vulnerable is so important. So if you notice yourself hiding something, it is time to practice these 4 skills. Where can you be more honest? Where are you avoiding intimacy? Where are you avoiding being seen? What are you struggling with that you're hiding and not being open about? And one more point I want to make before I close out. So far, I've only shared the negative things to be vulnerable about, right? Because so many times, like, to be vulnerable, we think, ooh, I want to hide the negative things about me. But the truth is, we might also have some shame around sharing the positive things in our lives. So vulnerability and authenticity can also look like sharing your excitement and joy about something. Being honest that you are so proud of yourself for some big achievement or a small achievement even, right? Like, I cleared the dishes today and I'm so proud of myself, right? Like, what if you allowed yourself to just be proud of yourself and verbally express that? Women especially do not allow themselves to be proud. We diminish our dreams, we diminish our hard work, right? So as you're moving towards being honest and finding the courage to be vulnerable, I want you to welcome in the good stuff too. Be willing to say, I am so proud of the work that I put in today. I'm so proud of getting through another week without losing my patience. I'm an amazing mom and I am so proud of that, right? Or I killed it at work this week. Let yourself share that. Let yourself be willing to brag on yourself to your partner. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Be proud of your achievements. Don't allow shame to creep in and diminish yourself. Don't allow shame to hold you back from seeing the amazingness that you are. It's not prideful. It's honest. Be honest with all the emotions, the negative ones and the positive ones. And then the last thing that I want to say is, I know that so many of you you're like, I'm vulnerable, but I want my partner to be more vulnerable. So I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Drop the criticism, right? You're not going to turn a switch and automatically have a vulnerable partner tomorrow that feels totally safe and honest with you, right? So I want you to go back to the beginning and I want you to drop the criticism. Allow the raw and real emotions without trying to fix anything. And then also ask questions. I'm going to record a podcast next on great questions to ask to start building deeper connection and start opening up the doors to vulnerability. So come in next week and listen to that. But questions is a great way to really create some more openness in a relationship, right? And then listen, really practice listening, letting them know, hey, I've got you. I can listen to you. I can put my phone down. I can put work down. I can, stay up an extra 20 minutes and listen to you, right? We can create space in our schedule to really sit down and listen to each other, right? And then lead by example, and then also like celebrate with them when they're proud of something, right? So many times, like, we miss those little moments just because we're so used to being with each other. We're so used to hearing their voice day in and day out. I know I've been married to my husband for 26 years. And so sometimes, like, when they're proud of something and they express it, we miss it because we're not fully engaged. So when they're proud of something, celebrate that with them, right? Even if it's the smallest thing that you don't really see much joy in, that's okay. I want you to start practicing seeing joy in their joy. If they're excited about something, be excited with them. This stuff is not always easy. To build more intimacy and connection in a relationship, you have to intentionally create a culture of vulnerability. It's not going to just happen. Your lower brain will fight it. And so will your partner's lower brain. Your partner has a lower brain too that says, this isn't safe, I gotta hide, right? Which means you must be willing to feel scared and go do it anyway. Don't wait for the fear to go away, right? This is courage. Feeling the fear, feeling the uncertainty, and getting really honest anyway. Feeling the discomfort of engaging with your partner with new questions, right? Sometimes that's awkward. It's like, we're going to ask each other some new questions, right? And it feels contrived and it feels like, oh, we have to plan to have a great marriage. No, drop all those thoughts, right? Feel the discomfort and go start asking new questions anyway. Feeling vulnerable and exposing your true self anyway, even though it's scary. Okay. And again, it takes practice. So practice, practice, practice. Vulnerability. I want you to start thinking of vulnerability as a beautiful word. It's glorious. It's part of an incredible relationship. When both people can stop trying to be perfect, you can truly connect, right? Feel the freedom in that. You don't have to be perfect anymore. You don't have to show up as perfect. You don't have to pretend to be perfect. You can be your most imperfect, flawed self and still build better connection because you're actually allowing yourself to be seen. So next time you feel like that shame creeping up and you feel like hiding something from your partner, I want you to remind yourself that there is so much beauty in letting your partner see what you think is ugly, right? That's a great challenge. Like, oh, I feel like this is really ugly. Let me go show it to my partner. And there's so much kindness and true, genuine love, right? Not the fairy tale movie love, but the deep, connected, lasting love. There's so much kindness and love in letting your partner show you what they think is ugly. Do you want a relationship that looks perfect on the outside? Or do you want a relationship that both of you know is not perfect, but it feels so good to be in, right? Let's choose the latter. Imperfection and honesty over hiding every damn day, okay? This is where deeper connection and true intimacy really begins. That's what I want for you. It's what I want for me. It's what I want for every married couple who chooses to stay together for the long haul, right? So I currently have a few spots open in my one-on-one coaching program. I coach women on how to heal their marriages. And I normally focus on just the woman. Occasionally, I will coach husbands too, if the woman is like, my husband wants to do this work with me as well. But for the most part, I coach women one-on-one on how to change their marriages, starting with themselves. So if you know that you need this work and you want to take it to the next level, you're invited to come work with me. My private coaching program is 6 months, and that gives you weekly coaching for 6 months. Together in those sessions, we will uncover what's working in your marriage and what's not working. You'll get really clear on the vision that you have for your marriage, and you'll learn to actively create it. So one of the things that I teach is that we stop dwelling on the past and we start focusing on the present moment and how the present moment is going to lead us to the marriage that we want, right? We're future focused. We create you create what you want your marriage to look like. And then we work every week on creating that marriage. So you're going to get clear on that vision that you have, and you're going to learn to actively create it. You're also going to communicate with more ease, and you'll improve your sex life. You'll start to see things from your partner's perspective, which is also going to open the doors to way more connection, right? So, and you'll also in that 6 months really start to know how to be vulnerable and to open your heart again, right? Some of my clients come to me really having a hard time with the difficult discussions, and we create safety on how to have those difficult discussions, how to communicate with love and intention, right? And compassion for both people, so that you can have a conversation about some serious stuff and actually work towards a solution instead of spinning around in circles and arguments all the time, right? And when you learn how to do these things, you're going to naturally welcome in more fun, right? And you're gonna create a joyful marriage on purpose with intention. A joyful marriage that lasts a lifetime doesn't just happen for most of us. We have to create it on purpose. And the beautiful thing is, like, you end up showing up as the partner that you want to be. And then you watch as your partner joins you, right? So you're going to learn to prioritize yourself too. This isn't just about like prioritizing the marriage. It's prioritizing yourself and your goals as well. I called my marriage coaching, I call it holistic coaching for a reason, because before you were ever a wife, you were also a whole, beautiful, and magnificent woman, right? So I want to help you uncover that woman again. And when you do, loving someone else for life becomes so much easier. So if you want my help, come and get it. You can book a free consultation at rachelcunningham.com/work with me. And that's Rachel spelled with an AEL. So rachelcunningham.com/work with me to book a free consultation to see if you want to work with me. All right. Have an incredible week, you guys. I'll see you next time.